Hey guys, Anthony, 4x4 Diesel. We're doing another vehicle inspection. This video is mainly for the owner of the vehicle so we can see what sort of condition it's in. We're going to point out anything that's a concern, and like usual, the usual things to have a look at. One day you'll see something different on one vehicle to another, so it's still worth watching all the vehicle inspection videos if you want to get familiar with what to look for, particularly if you are looking to buy a Prado or a Hilux, or this information can be used in general on a lot of makes and models. So let's get under there like usual, get in a bit closer and see what we can see. This is a 2013, if I remember correctly, about 170k. It's quite clean. It hasn't got a bull bar on it, as you can see. It's got the standard. It's very comparable. I've got the 2019 1GD sitting next to it, so very comparable vehicle. Usual sort of stuff you see. Oh, I was going to say, look like they didn't put a split pin back in there, but there is one there. When they put the suspension in. So the usual sweat on the top ball joint, we're not worried about that. The usual sweat sometimes out on this, I don't know why that's not normally, but it's not too bad. That's all right. Has it got the usual sweat on the bottom of the rack boot? Yep. CV joints look good like usual, the CV boots. All right, that's from the front what we see, so that's all good. Check for play in the wheel bearings, check for play in the inner rack ends, wobbling at top and bottom, left and right. Trace back where that movement is. Over this side, same thing, that sweat on that top ball joint. All the boots look okay. Same little bit of a sweat on that tire. I'm not worried about that. Let's have a look in here around the diff. Yeah, plug's been out, so they've done some diff oil changes. Have a bit of a sniff around in here. So there's a bit of oil up around in there. It's probably hard to show you on the camera. It's one of these things that ideally you'd see more with the bash plate off. We'll see if we can see it. That's a good thing about the genuine bash plates. They actually give you some real protection. You can't even see in from the sides too well, but I'm tipping there'll be a bit of an oil leak at the vane or the vacuum pump over there. That's where they mount on. And there's a hole here. Let's see if we can see in this hole here. That's pretty good, isn't it? Handy hole. I just got to work out so I want to get the light in there as well, yeah. I can't see in there too well with the bash plate on. So we would investigate that further. Let me stick it in here and we'll see what we can find. You might be able to see, but I can't because I'm holding the camera in the right spot. Anyway, there's no oil down here, so it's not a leak, so it's not something to worry about. It's every now and then those O-rings, they just develop a bit of a leak and they don't even go hard. So you can replace the O-ring, but we don't, it's not really the O-ring, it's probably just maybe needs a bit of a clean and a lube, but it's not something worth worrying about. It's not a big deal at all. Get down the vehicle a bit. Looks a bit oily around here. Could be just, that looks a bit oily. I'm just looking at that going. So when we, oh, here we go, yep. See, you're taking it to someone for a transmission service. You can see the aftermarket gasket. Oh, you can see the oil and that everywhere, yep. So all these obvious things I can pick out because I look at these all the time, and if you want to get like that with these, you need to watch these videos. So you can see it's like some sort of paper aftermarket gasket. You can see oil on the bottom of the bolts, so it's obviously recently been serviced or leaking, one of the two. As I've said in other videos, the pan should never come off these. It should never need to come off. The filter doesn't block, it doesn't anything. It's a waste of time. There's no adjustments you're going to do in there. Stop taking the pans off, just do oil changes. Right, you can see the gasket at the back there, it's actually oil soaked. So, I'm not happy about that. I like the genuine gaskets for a start. We've got those in stock, but we recommend against it. The reason they're in stock is to fix up these mistakes people have made, and that's what all this oil is. So we spotted the oil, right? You can see, I'll just get back here a little bit, get a bigger picture. You can see it's all over the cross member. It's on the bottom of the transfer case. See, it's sprayed back to the transfer case. It's on the fuel tank. It's a good rust protection, yeah. It's down the tail shaft, there's a little bit. So basically the transition pan's leaking. Look, it's even on the bottom of the diff here, right? So anyway, we're only up to here, so let's just back it up a little bit. So yeah, that's not good. So that's genuine Toyota engineering being messed with and turned into aftermarket. So now it's partly a Great Wall. It's not a Toyota anymore. Of course, we couldn't check that usual little weep that you see at that joint in the transfer case there, but like I've said with those, nothing to worry about either. You get a pattern here, there's really nothing to see, nothing to worry about on these vehicles most of the time. The next video will be looking under one that's done about 300,000 Ks almost, and a lot of outback tracks as well. So that'll show the sort of damage you might see if you've done tens of thousands kilometres on outback tracks in Australia. So airbags in there. You know, we're not a fan of airbags simply because these little joins here, sometimes they come out, they leak, whatever. But look, you know, each to their own what you want to do. It's just kind of extra expense. Better off putting the right springs in the first place and generally setting up your vehicle and your trailer with the right tow ball weight, and you'll be in business. Plenty of brake pads there. No oil on the rear diff. A little bit of butcherism going on, you know. Was it that hard to get the right size socket? Look, they got slipped on it or something. I don't know. Unnecessary. Looking over here, brake pads. Yeah, at least 80% brake pads. Let's have a look at the, you know, trailing arms just because we can, but we usually look at those and you'll see generally no problem. Sometimes they get a little bit cracked up. Once they get to 300,000 or 400,000 Ks, you might want to change those. We keep the arms in stock for the 120. It takes half an hour probably, you know, to change them. Not too hard, just a little bit fiddly getting the bolts back in. You can literally, while they're up in the hoist like this, you know, take the bolts out one by one, and yeah, a little bit of rust on the back of the diff there. That's probably, I'll back it up a bit now. All right, tow bar, boat, salt water, basically is the 3 words that equals. So when you do that, you head home, you wash the boat, you wash the back underneath the car as well, and maybe once a year get some touch-up paint, get the black out and just give that a bit of a touch-up. It's not too bad. It's not a big deal, but it's something worth noting. Fuel filler hose on the 150, still we haven't seen any issues with those, so we're not recommending any replacement, but monitor them, especially if you've got a petrol, because the petrols do deteriorate a lot quicker than the diesel. That fuel filter there, not too butchered up, so that's good. I'm not putting my hands on anything to check any plane, anything, but you know, check your uni joints and all that sort of thing. It's getting pretty boring under here. There's not much mud. Hasn't really done much in the way of outback trips. I'd say it's been on the beach somewhere. Might have been a Fraser because there's a bit of sand sitting there still. So a little bit more washing, but this rust protection would have been costly. I reckon people sort of pay quite a few hundreds of dollars to have this deterioration performed on their vehicle. So stop doing it. Don't go for an auto service wherever you go. So please don't take the pan off. And if you do go there, look, you know, just go to someone, do it yourself, or go to someone that knows how to change the oil, set the oil level right. Just looking at the plug up, the filler plug, seeing what it looks like. Okay, so that's it underneath. Let's have a bit of a look around under the bonnet and see if we can find anything up there. Under the bonnet. Okay, so when you see a catch can under the bonnet, it's kind of like, you know, that's just what people do because they didn't know any better. When you see a pink there, you know the air filter's pretty clean, probably been recently replaced. Does his own service. Nice spot there for a dual battery waiting. You know, timing belt, a Gates timing belt, and that's alright, at least you know it's been done, but it's not the BFE, and the old belt, stretch belt's still there, the old bearings, maybe the old idler tension and all that, and the water pump that's maybe going to leak soon. Can't see any evidence of it yet. Keep it on the coolant level. The coolant level, you can see the colour of the coolant. It's pretty average compared to other vehicles. So coolant's due at 160. That's why we just say bring it together, do it at 150, do the water pump as prevention. Because what you're going to do now, you've gone in there, you've done the timing belt, then you know in 10,000 Ks you're going to do the coolant. Right, well, you know, it looks like it hasn't been done, so it didn't get done at, you know, 10,000 Ks later. Like this is 170K, right? So we'll just skip the coolant and we'll let the fluid that protects your cooling system, your radiator, your head gaskets, your Welsh plugs, your heater core, all these components from rust and corrosion and failure, we'll just leave it there and let it start acting against the system instead of, you know, instead of protecting it and preventing issues. Bad idea. So that should have been done, and, you know, obviously if you watch the videos you'll see what we call the BFE job, because the water pumps don't usually make it till 300,000 Ks. It could be 180K, it could be 220, it could be 280, whatever. But the point is it's got a bearing in it. They do fail. It's not a problem with water pumps. It's just a wear and tear item. Same on all vehicles basically. So, you know, at 150 you just do the water pump and the coolant. So that hasn't been done, so I'd be recommending a BFE job. And I don't know, I'd rather not use Gates or Daco belts. I'd rather just use the genuine. They're only about, you know, they're less than $100, about $80 or something, you know. So it's not an expensive item every 150,000 Ks. That's why, you know, you spend a bit more money, do all the bearings and everything as prevention. So looking around here, Oh, there's a bolt missing up there in the top of that wiring loom there. See that missing bolt? Not a big deal, but we're going to leave it like that to show him. He may have that because he's just done his EGR clean, so there was a few bits and pieces that weren't reinstalled correctly, but that's a good reason to bring it to us to do the injector replacement after you've done your EGR clean. And then obviously doing the injector job and whatever, we can check all the work over here and see what's going on. To get it out of the way, I think he must have tucked these fuel hoses in down, so we got all that back out because that was rubbing around and not. It needs to be set up correctly so they're not rubbing on anything, you know, diesel vibration rubbing, they'll rub through. Bit of UHF and wiring just sitting down there. We won't talk about wiring in this video. Whoever's been changing the fuel filter, you know, they haven't put that black, that grey plug back in, you know, just carefully clips in there. Anyway, battery security is pretty good. Battery terminals are on almost all the way to the bottom, not quite, you know, not quite, but you know, you can see a bit of the top sticking out, that's good, but see the bottom? There's about 2 millimeters at the bottom. Could have just been pushed all the way down. Not a big deal, but you know, that one's not too bad, but again, not all the way down. Neither of them are all the way down, whoever replaced the battery. Anyway, whatever. So there's not much to see up here. Another awesome 1KD, 170 odd thousand Ks. Just need to get rid of the catch can, bypass that, tidy all that up again. Look, how untidy does that look? The old school hose clamps you'd find on a gas conversion from the 90s. Anyway, these one-way valves, just make sure they're clear as well. Little tech tip, little bit extra for the video. Anyway, that's an inspection. This one's pretty good. Those few little issues we've seen. If you're looking to purchase a vehicle, you just need to look around at all the guards and the cross members and that at the front to see if it's been in a bingle, if it looks original, if it's been painted, these sorts of things. You can look down there. If you look at a lot of vehicles, you get an idea what original looks like. And this is all very original. I haven't seen any evidence that it's been in a bingle. Anyway, that's a video. Remember, subscribe, turn the bell on, give us a thumbs up if you like that one. See ya.